Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why, despite all your efforts, you still haven't gotten where you want to be? It's not because you lack talent, nor is it because you lack information. The truth is simple and brutal. You haven't yet built a version of yourself that is capable of sustaining the success you desire. And until that happens, everything you achieve will be fragile, temporary, like a house of cards. Listen carefully. There is no sustainable success for those who live at the mercy of their emotions. There is no lasting wealth for those who cannot say no to short-term temptations. There is no real leadership in those who still sabotage themselves with cheap excuses. What exists is self-deception, and self-deception is the cruelest form of poverty. You don't need another technique. You need internal control. Because those who don't control themselves will be controlled by any distraction, any emotion, any fear. Do you think your past failures were due to a lack of opportunity? I tell you, they were due to a lack of version. You weren't prepared to sustain what you said you wanted. Most people live a life of unfinished attempts because they didn't have the courage to truly rebuild themselves. They prefer to adjust their plans, change their environment, change jobs, or even cities, but they continue with the same mind, the same habits, the same impulses, and then they carry their own saboteurs with them wherever they go. You don't need a new environment. You need a new command. I've seen men with unlimited resources go under because they were slaves to their impulses. I've seen men from humble backgrounds build fortunes because they rebuilt themselves internally first. It's not what you have in your pocket that changes your life. It's what you govern within your mind. If you feel stuck, defeated, or confused today, that's just a symptom. The diagnosis is clear. You've strayed from your inner command. You're operating on autopilot, repeating old patterns with new hope. That's strategic suicide. Stop now and look in the mental mirror with brutal honesty. Are you prepared for the life you say you want? Do you have the routine, mindset, discipline, and self-control that are compatible with your ambition? Or are you trying to achieve freedom with the mindset of an emotional prisoner? You need to understand that time does not forgive those who delay their own reconstruction. Every year that passes without this profound adjustment is a year wasted, and life does not refund lost time. But there is a gift hidden in the pain of awareness. You can still do this. You can still turn the game around. But to do so, you need to give up the comfort of your current identity. And that hurts. Because rebuilding yourself requires sacrifice. Sacrifice of ego, laziness, impulsiveness, victimhood. It requires you to take full responsibility for every decision, every habit, every result. There is no more room to outsource blame. You are the only engineer of your life. Do you think you will prosper without first overcoming yourself? That is an illusion. All prosperity is preceded by a silent victory in the field of discipline. Before you can dominate any market, any team, any investment, you need to master your own behavior. Because it is your behavior that sabotages or drives all your results. When I built my fortune, I wasn't the strongest, nor was I the smartest, but I was the most disciplined. I knew the greatest secret of success. Whoever rules themselves rules any empire, and I ruled. Starting with my thoughts, my time, my energy, my impulses. You can't control the world, but you can control your focus. You can control your daily actions. You can choose what to feed your mind, and that, my friend, is more than enough to build any fortune. Now, listen with your soul. You need to make a non-negotiable commitment to your personal reconstruction. That means adjusting your routine, cleaning up your environment, silencing destructive inner voices, building habits that honor your vision, and feeding an empire mindset, not a survivor mindset. It means waking up before the world to prepare in silence, studying when others are distracted, training your mind when others are complaining. You need to stop being a reactor and become an architect. The real secret to turning your life around isn't in a book, a video, or a new technique. It's in deciding that you will never again negotiate with your own weakness. that you will build a version of yourself worthy of the life you want. You don't need luck. You need command. And command begins with a simple decision. I refuse to waste another year with an inferior version of myself. When that decision is made with truth, the universe bows down. Because it only responds to those who rule from the inside out, and if you're feeling that called on, ignore it. It's life giving you one more chance before it's too late. Stay with me. Let's unearth the empire that lies dormant within you. Word by word, action by action. Do you really want to change your life? Then stop looking for answers outside yourself. The answers you need are already there, buried under layers of emotional laziness, cheap distractions, and excuses you've made up to avoid change. And that's exactly why so many people stay stuck. Because change requires confrontation. And confronting yourself hurts more than any external criticism. But let me tell you something that no one else will. The pain of confrontation is the true gateway to transformation. The discomfort you feel when you admit your flaws, your indiscipline, your inertia, that discomfort is raw gold. Because it reveals where your weaknesses lie. And where there is weakness, there is opportunity to build strength. You cannot evolve without bleeding a little in the field of truth. When I started my journey, I had no money, no connections, no influence. What I did have was something that few value, an uncompromising commitment to discipline. I knew that if I mastered my impulses, my habits, and my focus, the rest would follow. And it did, because the world cannot resist a disciplined man for long. He becomes inevitable. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you were born to be. But it doesn't come out of nowhere. It is built brick by brick in every micro decision you make. When you decide to get out of bed on time even when you don't feel like it. When you say no to momentary pleasure and yes to your plan. When you choose to study instead of distracting yourself. It is in these invisible details that your greatness begins to take shape. But here's the part that separates builders from dreamers. Maintaining that discipline on ordinary days, because anyone can be disciplined for 3 days. But only those who are truly committed continue when the excitement wears off. And that's why most people fail, because they still depend on motivation to act. I never waited for motivation. I acted on decision, and decision, when it's real, doesn't negotiate with fatigue. You need to understand this urgently. Your future will not be defined by big moments, but by small habits repeated in silence. Your empire will not be built by flashes of genius, but by consistent repetitions of choices aligned with your purpose. And if you feel like you're stuck, the first thing you should do is take a brutal inventory of your routine. Write down precisely how you spend every hour of your day. Because the truth is, your life is exactly where your schedule is. If your schedule is full of distractions, excuses, and meaningless tasks, guess what? So will your destiny be. Now, pay attention. You are not a victim of your routine. You are its creator. And at any moment, you can destroy it and build a new one. You don't have to wait for Monday. You don't have to wait for next month. You just have to decide that enough is enough, that you no longer accept being controlled by habits that keep you small. And rebuilding starts with focus. Absolute focus on a few goals, executed with excellence. The most common mistake people make when they want change is trying to do 1,000 things at once. That's not ambition, it's sabotage disguised as effort. An empire is built with surgical focus, not with multiple random attempts. Choose an area of your life that hurts the most today, and attack that area with absolute intensity. It could be your health, your mind, your financial discipline. It doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start with commitment. Because when you master one area of your life, others begin to fall like dominoes. Progress breeds confidence. Confidence breeds action. Action breeds power. But none of this will be possible if you remain hostage to your emotions. I've seen empires crumble because their leaders were slaves to impulsivity. So here's the truth that few have the courage to say. Those who don't rule, Their emotions will always be ruled by others. You need emotional coolness to thrive. That doesn't mean being insensitive, it means being strategic. Feel everything, but decide based on facts. Don't let anger make choices. Don't let fear paralyze you. Don't let anxiety hijack your routine. Your mind is an empire, and you are the only general who can protect it. But to do that, you need to train. Train vigilance, presence, control. This can be learned, this can be built. And when you master it, you become unstoppable. And if you're wondering where to start, start like this. Eliminate one habit that sabotages your greatness today. It could be checking your phone when you wake up. It could be staying up late. It could be complaining. Choose one and kill it with discipline. Every day. No excuses. Until it's dead. This will give you the first brick of self-confidence you need to move forward. And brick by brick, day after day, you begin to become someone who inspires respect even from yourself. And when you respect yourself, the whole world notices. Now, I want you to stop for a moment and look inside yourself. With complete honesty, are you the version your dreams need? Are your routine, your energy, your mind, are they up to the life you say you want to build? If the answer is no, and it probably is, then I challenge you. Comment below, right now. I refuse to remain small. Write it as a public commitment. A definitive break with the version of yourself that brought you here. Because, from now on, there is only one path. The total reconstruction of yourself, and that reconstruction begins now. Do you want to know the real difference between those who build solid wealth and those who spend their entire lives trying? It's not talent, it's not luck. It's the ability to maintain an efficient routine even on ordinary days. Those who depend on motivation live in cycles. Those who master routine live on the rise. And efficiency isn't about doing a lot. It's about doing the essentials with excellence every day. Most people are too busy with tasks that don't move anything forward. They're always tired, but they're not building anything. They confuse movement with progress. And that's fatal, because a life full of irrelevant activities steals your energy and silently kills your dreams. You need to operate like a powerhouse of purpose. That means cutting waste brutally. Waste of time, energy, focus. Anything that doesn't serve your growth must be eliminated. No mercy, no excuses, no negotiating with mediocrity. On my journey, I learned that every empire begins with mastery of the agenda. Before building the largest steel mill in history, I learned to build productive days. And each day, well executed, became a concrete block in the foundation of my freedom. You need to understand, there is no macro transformation without micro discipline. It is daily consistency that separates visionaries from achievers. Dreaming is free. Execution is expensive, and the price is constant discipline. Your routine needs to be so sharp that it expels laziness, so clear that it neutralizes confusion, so strong that it sustains your vision even on difficult days. This is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Because the modern world is a distraction machine. And if you don't build a routine that protects you, you will be swallowed up by the noise. Want an empire? Then live like you're building one. Wake up like a general. Execute like a craftsman. Think like a strategist. Rest like you're preparing for the next battle. And repeat. Every day. But to do that, you need an armored mental structure. Your mind is the headquarters of everything. And if it's vulnerable, nothing else can stand. You need to take control of your internal programming. Because the world will try to reprogram you all the time, with fear, distraction, futility, false urgency. Your mission is to armor your mind with rituals that reinforce who you want to be. I woke up early, read voraciously, thought silently before making any decisions, and eliminated everything that made me weak. This wasn't just a routine, it was a strategy for power. You need rituals, not random ones. Consistent rituals. unquestionable ones, rituals that activate your vision before the world pulls you down. Rituals that remind you, every day, that you are here to build, not to survive. And here's a principle that can change everything. If you don't program your mind, someone else will do it for you. And whoever controls your mind controls your destiny. This is more serious than it sounds. Because all your productivity, all your discipline, all your courage, it all comes from how your mind is trained to respond to reality. If your mind is used to giving up, doubting, procrastinating, it will continue to create smaller versions of you, no matter how many goals you write down. That's why the real restart begins inside. Not with declarations of optimism, but with practical, consistent decisions that rewrite your mental pattern. You need to make discipline a sacred habit. It can't depend on your mood. It needs to be above it. Because discipline is the only reliable vehicle that will take you from where you are to where you want to be. And when it becomes a lifestyle, excellence is no longer an effort, but a consequence. And here's another powerful truth. Simplicity is the soul of efficiency. Cut out everything that is too complex. Focus on the essentials. A productive routine doesn't need 10 tools, 5 schedules, or 1,000 methods. It needs clarity, decision, and execution. Those who complicate things are sabotaging themselves. Start your day the same way every day, by eliminating doubt. Tell yourself, today I will get things done, whatever it takes, and then do it, one step at a time, one victory at a time, and you will see your identity change. You will see your energy change. You will see the results begin to align with your vision. But none of this will happen if you continue to treat your evolution as optional. You need to decide that becoming your best self is no longer a plan. It's the only option. Everything you want is on the other side of personal efficiency. I've built fortunes, but before that, I built increasingly sharper versions of myself. Because I knew success is attracted, not pursued. It is attracted to those who become capable of sustaining it, and capability is born from structure. Do you want to change your life? Then build a daily structure so solid that even on bad days, it pushes you forward. This is not rigidity, it is freedom. Because true freedom is the result of disciplined repetition of correct decisions. And when you live like this, you no longer need to chase after things. The world begins to respect your position. Opportunities come. The right people appear. Because everything around you responds to the vibration you sustain. And those who sustain discipline sustain greatness. You can be strong, disciplined, and efficient, but if you're surrounded by the wrong people, you'll be building with one hand and destroying with the other. No one builds an empire alone, but many destroy theirs by allying themselves with people who lack vision, character, or competence. And here is one of the most lucrative decisions you will ever make in your life. Choose with brutal precision who will walk with you. I have never been afraid to let weak people go. I have never hesitated to cut out what slows me down. Because one wrong person consumes more energy than 1,000 difficult tasks. And energy is the fuel of growth. The truth is that most people are surrounded by emotional anchors. People who complain, doubt, sabotage, and you try to drag these anchors along, thinking it's loyalty. But that's not loyalty. It's strategic suicide. You owe nothing to those who hold you back. You have a mission, a vision, a future to build. And there is no room for those who are not committed to it. Cut early. Cut clean. Cut with love. But cut because every person who takes up space in your life is either contributing to your empire or eroding it from within. I learned this on the battlefield. In building my companies, the biggest mistake a leader can make is to keep an incompetent person around for fear of discomfort. That fear is costly. It costs opportunities, it costs speed, it costs peace, so listen carefully. Surround yourself only with minds sharper than yours. People who challenge you, push you, inspire you. Hire those who know more. Delegate to those who deliver more. Promote those who act with greatness. and eliminate those who only seem committed when they are being watched. Your team, whether professional, personal, or spiritual, defines how far you will go. If you are surrounded by emotional amateurs, your decisions will always be interrupted by internal crises. But if you are surrounded by builders, you grow even when you rest. And that brings us to another vital principle: the art of smart delegation. Don't confuse leadership with absolute control. True leaders build people who perform with excellence, even without supervision. I didn't become a billionaire by doing everything. I became a billionaire by choosing who would do it better than me. The difference between those who grow and those who stall is the ability to let go of what is not essential and entrust the right things to the right people. This requires courage, judgment, and clarity. It also requires a culture of excellence. Because delegation only works when there are high standards, so create a culture where mediocrity is stifled, where mistakes are not condemned but carelessness is intolerable, where responsibility is an honor, not a burden, where results are celebrated but the process is sacred. That culture starts with you, with your example, with your standards, with what you tolerate. You are the ceiling of your team. If you are weak, your allies will be weaker. If you are shallow, your culture will be diluted. But if you are a builder of excellence, it spreads like wildfire. You need to understand that every time you tolerate a substandard performance, you are telling the universe, I accept this as normal, and the universe responds. It replicates, multiplies, echoes, until your life is filled with noise, delays, conflicts, and frustration. But if you decide, firmly, that you will only walk with the bests, something changes. You start attracting different people, committed people, aligned people, people who add value. And then growth becomes natural, because everything starts moving at the same frequency. That's how I built my greatest achievements. By choosing superior minds, by developing leaders, by trusting talent, and by cutting ties with those who didn't measure up. I didn't have time to maintain emotional relationships with unproductive people. Those who don't deliver, leave. Those who sabotage, disappear. Those who don't grow, hold the team back. And if you want to build something great, you need to apply the same rigor. It doesn't matter if it's a business, a career, a family, or a life mission. If you allow the wrong people to stay, you will be sabotaging everything you build. Create an environment where growth is inevitable, where excellence is the minimum, where mistakes teach, but repeating mistakes is costly. An environment where everyone knows why they are there, and is proud of it, and never, ever tolerate disloyalty. Trust is the invisible glue that holds any empire together. If someone breaks that, they break the most precious link there is. And a broken link contaminates the entire chain. Cut it out. Rebuild. But never turn a blind eye to it. You are here to build something that lasts. And that is only possible when you build with people who honor the process. With allies who perform, even without the spotlight. With people who cheer for the team's victory, not just their own. And remember, one loyal and committed ally is worth more than 10 unstable experts. Because talent without character is a time bomb. And character without results is just intention. The ideal land possible is to build a team that has both. And that starts with your decision to accept nothing less. You are the architect of your reality. And the materials you choose to build that empire are the people you surround yourself with. Choose wisely. Because an empire doesn't collapse from the outside, it collapses from the inside. When the foundations are compromised. If you really want to break out of the cycle of survival and enter the realm of prosperity, then you need to understand this with all your mind. The real game of building is not a short-term one. It is a game that spans decades. It is a vision that transcends fads, crises, and ups and downs. Those who build with their eyes on the next quarter fail. Those who build with their eyes on the next century reign. Most people live as if they have something to prove tomorrow. They invest today expecting immediate returns. They create businesses with the anxiety of generating profit before even creating a structure. This is strategic immaturity. And the market punishes immaturity with bankruptcy. Do you want to know how I built the steel empire that changed the world? With a non-negotiable philosophy, solid, methodical, and sustained growth. No emotional leaps, no hasty decisions. Everything I did was based on vision, efficiency, and reinvestment. Profit, for me, was never the end goal. It was the fuel for the next step. Every dollar that came in was repositioned as seed money, not as a prize. Because I understood early on that the difference between a millionaire and an empire is what you do with the surplus. Most people consume it. Builders reinvest it. And those who reinvest grow steadily. You need to change your relationship with time. Haste is the enemy of depth. And true wealth requires depth. You don't build unshakable columns in a hurry. You dig deep, sustain the weight, and rise with strength. That's why so many fail, even with talent. They want to plant today and harvest tomorrow, but the soil of reality is unforgiving. It only rewards those who respect the time it takes. And that time is longer than you think, but also safer, deeper, more sustainable. I've never been impressed by quick profits. What fascinated me was consistency. Because consistency reveals the truth about any strategy. A business that can't sustain itself for 10 years doesn't deserve your attention. A decision that doesn't stand the test of time shouldn't be made. A partner who doesn't think about legacy shouldn't walk with you. You need to look at your life as if it were a major undertaking spanning decades. Will what you are doing today stand the test of time? How you spend, how you invest, how you learn, how you relate to others, is all of this positioning you for solid growth or for collapse disguised as quick results? The world is full of people who have made a lot of money, but few have built something that lasted, because making money is a minor art. Building a legacy is the real work, and that requires a long-term vision that scares the impatient. But here's the secret that no one tells you: the more patient you are in the beginning, the faster you grow later. Because a solid structure accelerates the process when the time is right. It's like a rocket. The preparation is slow, careful, intense, but the launch is explosive. Are you preparing or distracting yourself? Are you reinvesting your profits or wasting them on empty pleasures? Are you thinking about generational impact or momentary likes? Because each of these decisions defines the size of your future. I didn't build power plants for myself. I built them for the world. My wealth has always been a consequence of the utility I delivered at scale. I was obsessed with excellence, efficiency, and the future. And that obsession gave me something that no quick result could ever give me: peace. Because, when you build with consistency, you don't fear tomorrow. Your structure protects you. Your assets work for you. Your reputation precedes you. And your mind remains free to continue growing. You need to build something that frees you, not imprisons you. And that only happens when your mind operates based on a long-term vision. Wake up every day with a mental map that goes beyond the present. Think in terms of decades, legacy, perpetuity. It changes everything. Your routine changes. Your decisions change. Your investments change. Because those who think big are not distracted by the small. Those who want to build a legacy learn to say no to 1,000 good opportunities, to say yes to what really matters. Do you think you have a messy financial life because you don't earn enough? No, it's because your mind is not yet structured to deal with time. You want to fix in a month what took years to build wrong. And that's an illusion. Rebuilding starts with patience, with presence, with a firm decision to build for the long haul, and with a constant practice of reinvesting time, money, attention, energy in what really sustains the empire you want. And here's another non-negotiable truth. Growing without structure is as dangerous as not growing at all. Because growth without a foundation breaks harder. Have you ever seen someone who rose quickly and fell with a crash? I've seen many. All of them were hasty. All of them were short-sighted. All of them lacked long-term structure. You will not be one of them. You will build calmly, with clarity, with intention, and with continuous reinvestment, because that is the language of empires. Grow slowly at first to grow unshakably later. You got here because something inside you refused to stay the same. And that, my friend, is already the beginning of a new era. But now comes the most serious part of this whole journey. What are you going to do with all this? Because the truth is relentless. Knowledge without action is just an elegant illusion. You can watch 1,000 videos, read hundreds of books, take beautiful notes, but if you don't wake up tomorrow willing to perform like a man or woman with a mission, then all of this will have been just another distraction masquerading as growth. I have led you down this path, not to motivate you, but to transform you, because the world doesn't need more dreamers, it needs doers. Builders, leaders, people who have the courage to carry weight with purpose. And that is what you are becoming. A human being who is no longer willing to waste their gifts, who refuses to live below their potential, who takes on the duty of transforming their own life, and then transforming the world. And here is the final secret, the one that separates the great from the eternal. Those who understand that true wealth is only a means. The end is to serve. All personal growth, all inner empires, all discipline developed, all efficiency achieved, all of this is preparation for something greater. To impact lives. You weren't born just to solve your own problems. You were born to raise the level of those around you, to create opportunities, to inspire a new generation, to build something that will continue even after you are gone. That is the real game. The game of those who think about legacy, of those who build libraries while others build debts, of those who train minds while others train excuses, of those who get up early, not to impress, but to serve. The philanthropy that made me immortal didn't start when I achieved wealth. It started when I understood that money alone is dumb. But when directed by purpose, it transforms nations. That's why I built libraries, universities, foundations, because I understood that a man's power lies in how he shares his wisdom, not just how he accumulates his wealth. And you can do the same. You don't have to be a billionaire. You have to be responsible. You have to wake up hungry to make a difference. You have to live as an example, because leadership begins in silence, in the small decisions that no one sees, in the standards you uphold even when no one is watching. You are your first project, but you won't be the only one. When you become who you were born to be, you will inspire others to do the same. You will become a beacon in a world of darkness. You will be remembered, not only for what you achieved, but for who you became in the process. And if that touches you, it's because the seed was already there. I just activated what you already knew, that you can't live half a life anymore. That the time for procrastination is over. That every day that passes without you being your best self is a theft of destiny, of legacy, of impact. But now, you know the way. You have the tools, you have the map, and above all, you have the decision. And a true decision changes everything. So promise yourself, with the strength of someone who no longer accepts living small, you will rebuild your mind, your routine, your habits, your energy, your finances, your mission. And you will lead this transformation with humility and determination, because now you know it's possible. And more than that, you know it's your duty. You have the power to start a movement of rebuilding, of purpose, of building on a solid foundation. And it all starts with you. Now, if this video has awakened you, then do your part. Share it with those who need to hear this truth. Send it to a friend who is about to give up, to a family member who has forgotten their own strength, to someone who needs to remember that there is still time. Because the more people who wake up, the more this world changes. And if you're not yet part of this community of builders, sign up now. This channel isn't about videos. It's about transformation. It's about reconnecting you to what matters. You were born to lead, to transform, to build. And the time to start is now.